Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another cool episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. You got your host here. You got Anthony. You got Steph yet again. How's it going, Steph? What's up?
Oh, it's going amazing. How are you?
Amazing? Is that true?
I mean, kind of.
Okay.
Worked a lot more days this week than I would have preferred.
That's right. You've been working
but...
a lot. Yeah, you've been hustling. You told the show
flowers.
Your floor. So yeah, you're all over.
Yes.
I mean, guess spring. That is like your big time, right?
Yeah, it is the best time of year. I mean, we are busy year round, but can't beat spring florals. It is my favorite.
That's fair. Steph, I have a question.
Yes.
How do you have friends? How? I need help. I feel like I've really been sucking in the friend department. So for example, we were recording an episode of the show yesterday.
Right.
Bunch of stuff. So when you left, I kind of exhaled and I was like, I'm exhausted. I just want to chill. I was a day I didn't have my girls. They come back later today. So I was like, this is my last full day kidless.
Right.
So before I start back all my shenanigans, and then of course I'm like, all right, Netflix on, let's do this. I'm going to binge. I get a message from a buddy like, hey man, like, what are you doing? Do you want to come over? And I was just like, oh, I love you, bro. But I didn't even have it in me to go over and hang out with them. And I felt bad, because now I get my girls back tonight, and the next time I'm going to be free is not for like another 2 weeks. And so, how do you do it? How do you have friends? I don't know what to do.
I mean, I do the same thing, but the one thing that I do, because I know myself, and if I don't make plans ahead of time, I will just do what you did. I'll just stay home.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's what I did last night, and I was more than happy to be doing that. Watched a bunch of movies, watched the Barbie movie for like the 8th time.
Love that movie.
It is so good. It's one of my favorite movies.
Good. So good.
But so we just stayed home and watched movies, and it was so nice. But I do try, because with the schedule that I'm on with my daughter's dad, I typically have 2 weekends a month that I don't have her. So I do try to like plan those weekends out, whether that's like a little trip or just plans girls' night with my friends or whatever. But I know if I don't pre-plan that, I won't do anything.
Yeah.
But then it's like you get to the end of the weekend and you're like, wow, I just sat in my house by myself for 2 days straight. And you're like, ah. So I always try to pre-plan. And then in the moment, I'm like, oh my God, why did I agree to go out this weekend? I'm so tired. It's been a long week. But then once you get out, you always have fun. So I always just remind myself, I want to be there and I want to be around my friends, no matter how much I'm sitting here like, well, I could just, cozy up on the couch and not leave it for days. But I always try to like pre-plan.
Yeah.
And then it gives you the initiative, like, I'm not going to cancel on my friends. I'm going to show up. And then it's always worth it after you go.
That's true. That's good. I just, I think what I've tried to do, but I just haven't been so consistent with it the last couple of weekends, is same thing with my schedule. 2 weekends out of the month, I can kind of do what I need to do. But I've been, in the past, what I would try to do is like, okay, this weekend is going to be like me just self-care, basically.
Right.
I'm going to chill. I'm going to binge some shows. I'm going to take a lot of naps. I'm going to do what I do. Then that other week that's in the month will be more social. Like I will make those plans with people and stuff like that. But I just have kind of done a lot more of the self-care type things. So eventually my friends are just going to stop texting me. I already know that. But I don't know. It's just, I think what it is, I'm just getting older, early 30s, 2 kids, a dog, work. I just get so tired.
I think you're just going to have to force yourself to do it.
Okay.
I was going to say you're just going to have to suck it up, but that felt really rude.
You could just say that. That's fine. I think you're right. Okay, so I need to...
A little tough love for you.
All right. I'm going to take that advice. So the next time We record. Okay, so here, hold me accountable. Next time we record the show, I think it's episode 25. When we get to episode 25, I want you to start the show by asking me, hey, what
did you do with your weekends?
And then I need to be able to report. And if I can't, then I need you to. I need to be in trouble. I need you to. I need to put on the mom hat. And be like, Anthony, what did we talk about?
What did we talk about?
Okay. All right. I like that. I appreciate that.
If you're Anthony's friends and you're listening, make sure you make him get out of his house.
Deal. Well, that's okay. So I appreciate that. That's some good encouragement. So I'm going to work on that.
Perfect.
Hope you all out there are doing well. Hope you are, whether you're at home or more social than I am, I hope you all are just living your best life, doing the best you can, and enjoying yourselves. A few things before we officially get into today's show. The first thing that I would just ask you to do is just make sure you've hit subscribe on the podcast, turn on notifications, automatic downloads, all the things, especially since there's some things I need, not just Steph, but you all to hold me accountable for in the next episode. But you won't know if you can do that if you don't stay tuned and subscribe. So subscribe, do that. And then next thing that you can do is you can actually share the podcast. Share the podcast with your friends, with your family members, with your neighbors, with your friends who want to hang out with you, but you're just too lazy to get off the couch and go enjoy their company. It's just make it up to them by sharing with them an awesome podcast like this. I think maybe that'll make up for it. And then the last thing that you can do is just make sure, if you feel so inclined to do so, you can leave a review on the show. Five stars, highest rating if possible. That would be nice, because what that does, it just tells the algorithms out there that the show is legit, and it passes along to more people so we can grow the show, get more voices in here, hopefully encourage other single parents out there who haven't joined our little party yet. So that would be pretty nice. All right. You ready to get into the rest of the show?
Ready.
Let's do it.
Something to relate to.
Well, as you may have been able to put together from the title of this episode, Steph and I just wanted to spend some time talking about a few things that you're probably only going to get if you are a legit SP, if you will. So we know anybody could listen to the show. Obviously, we love all of our listeners, whether you're a single parent or not. I a lot of people check out the show, and that's good. We'll lift up anybody. But, to put it bluntly, this is the single parents podcast. And so us as single parents, we just, we go through things that maybe other people in other situations, they might get to hear about and maybe can observe. But you may not be able to fully get it unless you're kind of living the life. And so I think we each have, I have a few and you have a couple that you want to share. So let's just get into it. Some things you're only going to get if you're a single parent. All right. My first thing is that you're going to have to deal with a lot of people's assumptions about your lifestyle. And what do I mean by that? So let me give you just a quick example right off the bat. So the other day, I was going to get my hair cut. And you know how it is when you're getting your haircut or your hair done or whatever, you're making the usual small talk so it's not awkward while they're doing their service. And the guy giving me my haircut was talking to me about life. And of course, it always comes up, I have kids. And then so he naturally, I guess, assumed, because maybe it's still considered the norm, that, oh, you have kids, blah, blah, blah. Tell me about your kids. Okay, cool. Well, tell me about your wife. What does your wife do for work and whatever? And in that moment, I had to decide, and maybe this is the part that you're only going to get this if you're a single parent. I had to decide, do I want to get into the whole thing of well, actually, I'm a single dad, I'm divorced, whatever. Or because we only have 5 more minutes left in this haircut, do I just kind of want to say something and not really get into it? I think I said something of oh yeah, she cleans because that's what the girl's mom does or whatever. And I guess technically maybe I did lie, but I just didn't feel going into the whole thing. But you're going to get that. A lot of people have or another example is me and the girls' mom, we both took the girls to the dentist a couple of weekends ago. And she had recently had some car trouble coming home from a trip. And so I guess for some, I don't know how, but the dentist or whoever knew about her car trouble. And so I was in the room with him while he was doing the particular work at that time. And so he looked at me and was oh yeah, so I heard you had some transition stuff with your transmission and stuff like that. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I better not. Like, I just bought my
Do you
car.
know something I don't
better
know?
not have any. And then like it clicked, and I was like, and then the girl's mom came around, and she's like, oh, actually, that was me, and whatever. But like, I guess he just assumed that, she
was
had
like
that,
a
I
shared
have
vehicle.
that because
Yeah.
we're together. And so I don't know. You're just gonna have those times, even though it's 2024, and hopefully whatever. You're just going to have those times where people are just going to assume that the default about you is that you're not. And I guess I kind of get that, and I guess that makes sense. And maybe I've made those assumptions too. But you ever experienced that before?
Oh, yeah, all the time. It's like anytime. Well, and even if like I'm out with like a guy friend and I'm talking about how, oh, yeah, like I'm talking to someone about my daughter and they're like, oh, and this is your husband? And I'm like, no. Like,
Yeah.
just because I have a kid does not mean that I'm married.
Yep.
But people really have, especially like older generations,
Yes.
have a really hard time wrapping their head around people being a single parent and being okay with that.
I talked about this a couple episodes ago, but yeah, if you try to tell somebody, like, even if you're like, I'm good for like right now, like not saying I wouldn't want to be in a relationship one day, but for right now, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm whatever. Some people just can't like fathom that, or they just think that you're lying. And so their default is like, well, okay, but I have my friend's daughter who I think you should meet.
Oh my God.
Or I
that.
know this one person, or like here's this other one single person that I know.
Yes.
And so on and so forth. And it's just like, okay, that's cool. Like, again,
I'm happy you know that.
Nice, I guess, but like that isn't like, or like I know people who are legit like, I am good. Like maybe like casually, like I'll hang out with somebody, but like I don't want to get married again. I don't want to do this long term. I don't want committed relationships. And if you try to tell that to some people, they're just like,
it's like baffling.
What? How?
Yeah.
How
I'll have people even like go to my mom and be like, oh, you should set your daughter up with my son. And my mom's like, no, like she doesn't want that. Like leave both of us alone.
So yeah, that's my first one. It's just people just, you're gonna have to deal with people making assumptions. And maybe you're like me, you're just in the moment. Maybe you've had to experience the fact that like, is it worth, like, even at, like you said, out and about, or at like the grocery store, people checking you out. Like, do I want to just like get into this, or do I just want to say, oh yeah, thank you, yeah, it's nice being married, whatever, and then just kind of move on with your day?
Because it's like, do you really want to get into like the whole like, no, I'm divorced, and then they're like, oh my God, but you're so young, and you're like, yeah, I got divorced, yeah. Like it's never just like, oh, I'm divorced, and then end of conversation. There's always some conversation, and it's always like so pushy and personal, and I'm like, why are you even asking me these things? Like, can we denormalize asking strangers things like that?
Please. So that's my first one. What do you got?
I think I was really thinking about this, and I think as a single parent, especially a single parent in like a co-parenting relationship, a lot of people probably genuinely can't fathom the mixed bittersweet feelings of like those weeks or days or whatever that they go with their other parent. Because I think I can see it in both lights. I find it as a really positive thing, and I find it obviously as like a negative thing. But I think you can't really wrap your head around that because, when you are in a relationship with your child's other parent, and it's like you get a babysitter for date night, it's not the same as like dropping your kid off at school and knowing that you're not going to see them for 4 days. And I think I say bittersweet because every single time without fail for 5 years now, I get sad when Olive goes to her dad's house every single time. But then at the same time, I'm like, okay, I have this opportunity that maybe a stay-at-home mom that like is always with her kids, and it's always her responsibility. She doesn't get that break like I do. She doesn't get a weekend off to just go do whatever she wants with her friends, or go, like you said, do some self-care and just kind of spend that time for herself. So I think that that's something, it's really genuinely the hardest thing, but also the most helpful thing. So I think it's hard to even explain the way that it makes you feel, but I think that's something as a single parent, especially in a co-parenting relationship, are the only ones who can really truly understand how that
I'm
feels.
glad you brought that one up, because to be honest, that's the one that I instantly go to when I think about like stuff that you're really only going to get if you're in like, especially co-parenting. I know for like, you're right, there's single parents who have their kids basically 24/7, 365.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember talking to somebody in that situation and being like, oh yeah, I just stressed because the girls are with me and we have a million things to do. But, when they go back to their moms next week, I'm going to get
all this done.
So she was like, oh, that must be nice. Like being able to look forward to like having a guaranteed set of days. And I was like, okay, touche.
For sure.
But you're right. Like, and when you're in this type of very particular co-parenting situation, the emotions that you feel are very mixed and can be very chaotic and can be very hard to process. So like for me, just being super honest, like there's weekends or weeks when I have my girls, love them to death, would die for them right now, but oh my gosh, sometimes they are crazy and messy and they're just all over the place, and it's just like Friday, okay, a day and a half they're going back to their mom's house, and so you can just sit and not even just like do whatever you want. I could sit and I can breathe without hearing dad every 5 seconds. So I'll begin beyond. There'll be times where I'm like looking forward to that, and then as soon as they leave and I see them drive off, I'm like, but come back. I don't want you to go.
You always think you're looking forward to it until they actually go, and then you're like, oh,
yes. And then
now it's just me.
It never fails because they're always super messy. But they'll leave, and usually it's like a blanket or something because they have like very, very like particular blankets.
Oh, okay.
I'll turn and I'll see their blanket on the couch, and I'll just be like, oh. But so what I'll have to do, like I don't think I've shared this before on the show. What I have to do to help me is that I'll instantly, like if they have like blankets or something that I know is like theirs, I'll have to like go put it in their room,
right?
Because it's hard for me to like see their blanket or whatever sitting on the couch, because then it does make me sad. So I you know what, I think this is we're getting into like some Anthony therapy stuff right now, because I think part of why I am like I could be like a workaholic and just go so much is, especially during the weeks when I don't have my kids, is because it prevents me from sitting down and like missing them.
Yes.
I think I'm just now realizing that, because I guess I kind of talked earlier about like how I just needed that night and to stay home, and my friends were texting me and I didn't want to go out. But I think I get to that point because the whole week I'm like, I could go do this and I need to do this, and I'm going to work and then do the podcast or whatever. And I don't let myself stop naturally throughout the week because I don't like to sit and think about the fact that they're not there. And then I get to the weekend and I'm just like so exhausted that my body's like, no, dude, like you need at least
doing anything.
one night on the couch. But no, that's true.
Yeah.
All right. My second thing was, kind of in the same realm, but this is like more for, I'm sure, any parent with any schedule. And even, I guess, technically this could be for any parent in general, but for single parents, I know, but this could be for like the single parents who have their kids like even all of the time. And that's the beauty and the magic of, especially when you have young kids, of like the post bedtime hour or 2 hours that you get.
Or 7 hours if you're me.
You stay up 7 hours?
So
how
late?
What time do you go to bed? Oh my gosh.
7 might be an exaggeration, but
Whoa.
I stay up
You
for
late?
so long. Yeah.
Oh, I give myself at least like an hour or two, because that's all. Then I'm just get too exhausted and then I just want to go to bed. But I've been seeing a lot of those posts where, again, parents in general will just talk about like the constant battle between like I'm exhausted and I want to go to bed versus like this is it.
Enjoy it.
Like if you go to bed, you're gonna wake up and then the shenanigans start all over again. So. Oh my! But I always joke with my mom because my dad was in like the military growing up.
Oh, okay.
And so there was a period of time when she basically kind of functioned as a single parent because my dad was overseas.
Yeah.
And I remember times when I was around our kids' age, like maybe I heard the doorbell ring, or maybe I was just a greedy little boy and I could smell the aroma coming through into my room. But I would get up and I'm like, does mom does she get pizza or Chinese food? What's going on over there? And so like I'll come out of my room and be like, Mom, do you have pizza? And I remember this, even though like, that was a long time ago, but I remember her like sending me back to my room to go to bed and whatever. But now I even like recently apologized to her, and I'm like, I get probably that you were super annoyed with me when I came out, because you raising 4 kids by yourself was like, I'm going to put them to bed.
It's like her me time
order
finally.
Chinese food. I'm going to order a pizza, and I'm going to watch my show or whatever. And then here comes little Anthony like, do you have pizza? And she's so I'm like, I get it. And so like, I'm like, I apologize.
I feel like that's like a universal parent thing is like saving the snack that you don't want to share with your kids until after they go to bed. And then I'm always like so scared. I feel like I'm like the kid that's going to get in trouble, because Olive's room is like not that far from our living room. And I'm always like, I'm really exposing my secrets to her right now. So I shouldn't even say this.
She's taking notes over there.
She's really intently listening right now. But I'll like wait till she goes to bed, and she always falls asleep really easy. And then I'll like go in the kitchen and like get what I want to get. And it's always, of course, like a bag of chips or something. And I'm like trying to open it really quietly. Like it's like, if she wakes up, she's gonna get so mad at me that I waited for her to go to bed.
Oh my gosh. So that's my second one. You had one more, and then I have one more. What's your other one?
So my other one is kind of like, they all kind of flow together, but more so the like morning routine, because I think it's drastically different when you are a single parent, and it's not like, it's an early Saturday morning and your kids are up, and you can be like, to your spouse, like, oh, it's your turn. I'm sleeping in today. You know what I mean? So when you're a single parent, you're the only parent in the household. So if your kids are up, it's like, well, now I'm up, because if you have a partner, you can be like, you know what, like I've gotten up early every day this week. Do you mind getting up and starting breakfast and letting me catch another hour of sleep or whatever? So I think it's just kind of the constantly being the only parent or the only adult in the household means that you're always on. And I think a lot of parents can understand that in general. But when you're a single parent, there's never someone to like pass the buck onto. It's always you. So yeah.
That's a good one. And I think, because I was kind of thinking about that one too, but also like the fact that being on also always means that, because I think, again, going back to the assumption thing, sometimes people who look at, again, I'm using a lot of like co-parenting examples. I know not everybody's in that situation, but that's what we're in, so I can talk for myself. But people will look at the co-parenting examples and be like, well, you have your kid all week this week, but then the next week, then you don't. You're not, basically saying like, well, you're not a parent that week.
Right.
And I have to be like, no. Like, just because they're not at my house,
you still have, I'm
not like, I can't do my own thing. I'm still
You don't
on.
just magically turn into like a single bachelor that has no responsibilities just because they're at their mom's house.
Literally, like we were talking about before we were rolling, like traveling and going on cruises and going international and all this stuff, and people assume like, okay, cool, you don't have your kids that week, so you could do all that stuff. And I'm like, well, no, because like I'm still a parent and I still have responsibilities, and if my phone rings and my kids need me, or not even just need me, or if they just like want to talk, I'm not going to be like, well, it's not my time, or it's not. I know some people have like, you can call between like 7 and 7:30, and that's when you can talk to your kid. And if it's like set up through the courts and stuff like that, that's cool.
Right.
But for my situation, like my kids they can call me whenever, and I'm not going to be like, well, sorry, like,
nope, you're at your mom's house. You don't exist to be this week.
Sorry. Or like I take my kids to gymnastics every single week, regardless of whose time it is. Or there's just times where like their mom's running late with work, so she'll hit me up and be like, hey, can you pick the kids up from school? Even if it's on like, I'm using air quotes, like her time. And so you're right. Like practically when you have your kids, you're on all the time. Like it's you, dependent on you. But I would add, just because if you're in a co-parenting situation, they're not with you on quote unquote your time, doesn't mean you're still not on. And I know I've had situations where people just haven't gotten that point.
Yeah.
And they kind of just expect me to fully like detach when I don't have my kids. But that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not realistic. It's just like, as you know, standard married couple parents, like just because you take a night off from the kids and go out doesn't mean that all of the sudden you don't have kids, right? If the babysitter calls, you're still going to have to rush home, your kid's sick, whatever. It's the same for us, you know, even if Olive's at her dad's house and the school nurse calls me that she's sick, I'm not going to just be like, oh, not my week.
Yep.
Called the wrong number.
Exactly. So that's good. And then my last one kind of goes into what you're saying about like always being on. And this can now also apply to people who have their kids 24/7, is that we know that everything that we're doing isn't necessarily always going to be at 100% and perfect and, you know, spick and span and legit. We know, because us being on all the time means that, you know what, there's some things that just aren't going to be 100%. I know my car out there needs to be washed. I get it. I know. Trust me. I know. But guess what? I have to choose between going to wash my car versus cleaning versus laundry versus doing dishes versus
taking 5 seconds for yourself.
Breathing. And so, yes, I could go wash my car and I could do this, or I could, you know, feed my kids a little bit better. Like, I don't feed them trash, but like I could get better salmon and veggies or whatever. Like, we get it. Like, we know.
Yes.
We know. But when you have to do it all, sometimes you just gotta have to say, you know what, 80%, if that's all I can do on this one particular thing today, then that's all it's gonna, like, I'm chicken nuggets for dinner. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Like, again, that's not every night, but if tonight I'm just like, I went 100% on homework today because they really needed extra time at homework. So that 100% of me went to homework. So that means I don't have enough to give 100% to dinner too. So we're gonna give chicken nuggets for, and then we know. So we love the people who always want to, like, well, you know, if you did this, or if you try this, or if you would add this into, like, we know. We just don't have time or energy to do all that. It's
for sure. It makes it so hard too. Like, when people who aren't single parents are like, well, I just meal prep every Sunday, or, you know, whatever. And I'm like, not only do I not want to do that, I don't have time. And it's like, I always try to kind of explain, like, very realistically, think about if your husband did nothing ever. And, you know, maybe that's the reality in your situation, but did nothing, doesn't work, doesn't pay any bills, doesn't help out around the house, does not contribute whatsoever. That is what it's like being a single parent, because you are the only contributing factor. And that is exhausting and that is stressful. So I think I tend to, you know, get really overwhelmed, and then I'll like vent to my mom about it. And then my mom's very much like a look at the bright side kind of person. And I literally told her the other day, I was like, I don't want to look at the bright side right now. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm stressed. I had all this stuff happen. And I was like, I don't feel like looking at the bright side. Sometimes I don't have to. Sometimes I get to just be like, my life is stressful and I want to just feel validated in that sometimes.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. So, you know what? I always just say on the show, and I have to preach it to myself, like, as long as you're doing the best you can, then that's all that it can be some days. And if as long as your kids are safe and loved and set up to succeed throughout their day, then I think we're doing a good job, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
I agree.
But so those were just a few things that we just, you know, hopefully you single parents out there, or at least to some of these, were like, yep, amen to that. I know exactly what you're talking about. And hopefully, ultimately, I wanted to do this segment because I wanted to hopefully put it out there that if you are like working through some of those things we brought up, hopefully it's just a reminder that you're not alone, and there's other people who get it and who understand and who aren't going to judge you for feeding your kids chicken nuggets for dinner, because we're figuring it out too. So hopefully that's the case. Or maybe you have some other things that you're like, yeah, but you guys also forgot about this. Like, yeah, for sure. And if that's the case, let's again hear your voice. You're part of the show too. Send us your thoughts, your suggestions, whatever. You can just do that through the socials, but there's also the email, thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com.
Something to think about.
So something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and you see horror stories, you see TikTok videos. I think a lot about our kids are right about the same age. They're pretty soon here. I don't know if your girls have phones, but within the next couple of years, Olive will be old enough to get a phone.
Right.
And something I think a lot about is like the day and age that we're in now with social media and our kids participating in social media themselves. And then I also think about us as parents and our use of social media and putting our children on social media.
Right.
And I think this is a really hot topic right now. I was watching a video last night, and a big thing that's going around right now is mommy bloggers and family bloggers, right? And a lot of people are kind of denouncing that because they feel like it's not safe for the children to be going viral and being seen by millions of strangers, and then you get into dangerous territory there.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess it's kind of a broad topic, but I wanted to talk about what are your opinions. We'll start with your girls getting a little bit older, having social media profiles, maybe having a TikTok and Instagram, Snapchat. What's your thoughts there?
I am nervous, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, well, there's a couple of points to that. And I think the first main point will probably go into, we can talk about that more when it comes to like the safety aspect in a second. But it's just because the fact that I do have 2 girls and I know how the internet works, and I'm sorry, but some of you people out there are creeps. I'll just say that.
Yes.
It's not good. It's not good. So I worry about that. Like I said, we talk more about that in a second. But also part 2 is that I know that I'm a big proponent in their lives in general about them like truly seeking their authentic selves.
Yeah.
Because that was something that I had to really work through a lot in my life and probably didn't fully live into, honestly, till within like the last 5 years.
Okay.
And so like a big thing about me is like I'm going to help them truly grow to know who they are, how to understand who they are, and how to live out who they are and who they want to be. So I've always said, like, if they come to me when they're like 18 and they're like, Dad, so I kind of explored what's out there, I've understood myself, and I know at the end of the day, what I want to do is move to Europe and become a professional ice sculptor. Like, if they're like, okay, cool, like, all right, I'll support you in that as long as like that's you.
Right.
But when that comes to social media, I guess one of my big fears is that obviously with social media, it's easy to start instantly comparing yourself to what everybody else is doing out there.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to appearances and lifestyles and things of that nature, and just being constantly told, hey, you need to look like this, especially as a woman.
Yeah.
Like, you need to look like this or act like this or to function like this in order to be socially accepted in a lot of ways. And so I think right off the bat, if and when the girls start, well, I know it's not a matter of when, they'll eventually get into it, I'm sure. But whenever they do, I would really, really hope that they have like a good understanding of themselves. So that way, when they are inundated with all of these different things coming at them, telling them like, hey, this is who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
They're able to kind of navigate that in a as healthy a way as possible. Like, I know I can't be naive and know that they're never going to be tempted to compare themselves to the Instagram model they see or the celebrity they see, or try to find their self-worth in the amount of likes that they're getting on their posts. Like, that's just human nature, I guess. And so that's going to be a part of it. But I just hope that they can kind of have a healthy sense of self, so that way they can navigate those waters a little better.
I think that's really smart. I think that, I mean, there's only so much we can do as parents to protect our kids from those things. But I think I really like what you said about just really instilling that sense of self and that sense of confidence in them while they're so young, so that they're not going into it not knowing who they are.
Yeah.
And then just kind of adopting. And then that so much insecurity stems from just not really having an understanding of yourself. So I really, really like that. I think that that's really awesome that that's what you're doing with your girls.
Hopefully. Well, what about you? What is your, I guess for, I think the first part, I guess, is like for you and knowing that Olive is eventually going to step into that. What is your thoughts about her eventually stepping into that?
Honestly, same as you, like it scares me. And I think it's so funny because my parents were pretty strict on me when I was a teenager, but well-deserved now that I'm an adult looking back. But I think I always, of course, as a teenager was like, oh my gosh, like I'm never going to be this strict, blah, blah, blah. And now that I'm the parent, it's so funny because I'm like, I can't imagine like Olive having Instagram and like, I don't know. It scares me. I hate it.
Oh,
and I
man.
never want Olive to feel like she doesn't have any privacy or doesn't, can't do anything without mom always looking over her shoulder. But it's really hard. And this is something which I guess it's a good thing I started thinking about it early, but it's something I grapple a lot with myself about because I'm like, how much do you stay involved so that your kid's safe? But then how much is too much to where you're kind of smothering them and not letting them have their own sense of self and kind of, I mean, they're always going to, even in school, they're going to have things that are going to happen that they're going to have to deal with by themselves. But I genuinely don't know what I'm going to do yet. And it's something that I still hopefully have a couple of years to think about. But that is something, I mean, I ask a lot of people who have kids that are older than Olive because I'm like, I'm so out of my element with it because even when we were younger, social media was not a thing. We didn't grow up in this world where 9-year-olds have an Instagram account, So, I mean, I didn't even have a cell phone until I was 14 and it was a flip phone. So, like it's very much like raising kids in such a drastically different world than we grew up in. So you can't even draw from your own personal experience on this one. Like you truly have to just figure it out. And I think that's why I really try to educate myself as much as I can on, like internet safety and making sure that, by the time Olive actually is on the internet, that she is educated on internet safety and she knows, what to look out for. And, definitely there will be some boundaries in place. Like you're not talking to strangers on the internet. You're not doing these things, but it is very scary. So that's, partially why I wanted to talk to you about it. Cause I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I still have a lot of thinking about it to do.
It's interesting because you're right. Like looking back, I trying to remember. I'm pretty sure like my first social media platform or whatever it was like MySpace.
Of course,
you remember?
yes.
Okay, so,
yeah.
But I was already like maybe late high school.
Yeah, because I think I was probably like a freshman.
Yeah.
Maybe when I got MySpace. So like obviously much older than kids are now when they're getting their first social media account.
Yeah. So I was already old, and I remember specifically my first text message. It was on like a Nokia like brick thing.
Oh yeah.
Because I was walking and I felt my phone like make a vibration it never did before. I'm like, what the crap? And so I look at it and it was from my friend Matt, and it said something like, do you want to go bowling tonight or whatever? But I was so confused. I was like, what? Like what is this?
Yeah.
Why is my phone asking me about going? And then I'm like, oh, this is a text. Matt is asking me to go bowling to like what the, and so like,
and you only get like 50 of those a month. Okay.
Yeah, seriously. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of cool. But then you're right. Like my kids, like they could text probably better than me if they wanted to. Like it's kind of, but I think ultimately, for the first part, kind of how you're saying, like you're right. Like there's a balance between being aware of what your kids are doing, their activities, making sure that there are boundaries and guidelines in place versus smothering them and being over controlling. Because like, let's just face it. Like I think this can be like very blunt, but I think that if you don't at least acknowledge just a little bit, you're kind of being naive.
Right.
Like if they're going to do that and want to do that, then they're going to find ways to do it. They're going to sneak. They're going to do it when they're with their friends. They're going to try to hide it from you. They're going to do all these different things. Like, that's just the reality. If you don't think that's true, then again, I think you're just being little
super naive. Yeah.
And so like my big thing, even now for their context, 7 and 8 years old, I'm really, really trying to instill the importance of trust with them.
Yeah.
And being a safe person that they know that trust can be built with.
Yeah.
So already I'm trying to show them like, hey, like usually let's just take trying to think of an example that's maybe happened. I don't know, something with like soap in the bathtub, whatever. I think maybe this happened. I don't know why this came to mind, but I think maybe this happened. But like, say I got like a new bottle of like shampoo, super expensive. Well, not super expensive, but like not cheap.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure there's one time where my younger daughter, Maddie, like dumped it all out, or she's making potions in the bath or doing something random like that. And so I go in and I'm like, I know I just bought all this shampoo. It wasn't cheap. Like, what happened to it? And then I could see her like try to like fumble around and come up with something.
That's a good idea.
And so I just had to be like, Maddie, like, just be honest with me. I'm not saying I won't be upset about what happened. Like, I'm not going to like promise you there won't be consequences to telling the truth.
Yes.
But you need to know that just being honest, and we can work through this, and it's going to be a lot better than if you try to lie and I find out that you're lying and all this other stuff. Oh, no, I actually remember the example that literally just happened. So my kids go to like a charter school and they have to wear uniforms. But one day every week or a couple of times a month, they can wear jeans, but they have to pay like $1 and it's like a fundraiser thing. So early in the week, I gave Maddie $1 to wear jeans on Jean Day. And I asked her like, hey, like, oh, that's what it was. She still had the $1 in her backpack. So it's like, how come you didn't give the $1 to your teacher for Jean Day? And she's like, oh, I did. And I'm like, okay, well then what's this $1? And she's like, oh, like a friend gave me that $1 so I can keep it and go to the store with it. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, if I send like a little message to your teacher asking like, hey, did Maddie pay for Jean Day? She's going to say yes. And she's like, oh, I didn't think to do that. And so like, we just had to have a conversation.
I did not think of that.
But like in that moment, I had to be like, all right, this is a teaching moment.
Yeah.
If I blow up on her and I try to, and if I just
say, you're lying, like it's always how
don't respond well, then she's going to learn like, okay, being honest with my dad leads to a lot of anger, a lot of negative stuff. So next time I'm just going to do a better job of trying to hide it.
Yes.
Versus like, okay, let me be honest with my dad. Like we were able to work out. I mean, like at the end of the day, it wasn't really that big of a deal, but like hopefully, so all that's tied into social media. Like I'm hoping that when they get older and they get their phones and they have access to things, they're going to know like, okay, we talked a lot about trust and dad is expending a certain level of trust to you.
Right.
Again, we have boundaries. We have like certain expectations with this, but in a way, I'm going to trust you. And as long as you're able to be honest and be open and we can talk through these things, then we're going to get through it and we're going to work through it. But if you feel the need or try to like hide certain things and that comes out, it's just going to be a lot different. So I think in a way, hopefully I'm instilling that in them now. So that way, when they do have that, they're not even going to think like, well, or maybe they do sit and mess up or something on social media.
Right.
Talk to somebody like, not like an adult, but maybe they just, I don't know, do something dumb with friends.
Yes.
Like hopefully they say like, well, I need to be honest with my dad about this or whatever it is because it's a lot better than trying to hide it. Maybe I'm the one being naive, but that's just kind of how I'm going about it.
Well, I take a super, super similar approach with Olive. As far as just teaching, like using little situations like that as a teaching experience. And I think that it's so important that the trust and respect is established both ways. And I think that comes across too in, respecting them and their privacy and things that matter to them too, just as much as we want them to respect us.
Mm-hmm.
And a big thing that I always teach Olive is all of your consequences have actions, good ones or bad ones. And so I think that's something that I really try to instill in her too, because I think, when you're a little bit older, preteen, teenager, you do things genuinely without thinking about the consequences at all. Like you really, and I mean, that's kind of the name of the game. Your brain's still developing. You're just figuring it out. But I think the earlier that you can instill in them that no matter what you do, there will be a consequence. No matter what action you take, there will be a consequence. So having that in the back of your mind and thinking about, if I do this, what kind of consequence is there going to be? And that doesn't even have to be like, oh, my mom's going to get mad at me. That's more so, it could ruin my reputation. It could have this effect, or it could make people respect me more. It goes both ways. But that's something that, and it kind of goes along with exactly what you said, like instilling that in her as young as I can, in hopes that when she gets older and she does have that freedom, that hopefully she already has, that in the back of her mind, like, okay, well, I'm actually going to think about this before I do it. Guaranteed it won't work every time.
No, yeah, for sure.
But you can hope for the best.
And then as far as me and my approach to like putting them on the internet right now, because I've seen, actually I saw one on like Twitter or X or whatever it's called now.
Yeah,
about like
I refuse.
this.
I'll call Twitter till the day I die.
Ain't nobody's calling it X. Come on. But it was this mom YouTuber or whatever she is getting exposed because I don't know if you saw this video, their dog just died. Like legit, really just died. And so, of course, her being one of those content creators saw it as like content opportunity.
Yeah.
And so like her and her kid are sitting in their car and they're upset about their dog. And her son is trying to tell her, I guess she just didn't edit it out or something, or maybe I don't know how it actually came out. But basically her son is trying to tell her like, no, like I'm not like putting on tears for the camera. Like I'm legit sad that, Rufus just died.
Yeah.
And so her mom's like, yeah, I know. But like, just try like making this face or try doing this, or like, let's just repeat what you just said. And she's like, no, like, I don't want to, like, I'm legit sad. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And so the mom was getting roasted because of stuff like that. And I know that's extreme, but that's out there. And I think that's just crazy.
It's hard to call it extreme anymore when like that's truly becoming the trend. Like, and I think for me, the older Olive gets, the more I'm realizing that like I really try really consciously not to put her on any social media where people who I'm not approving to see her are going to see her.
Right.
So I have a TikTok account. Any of my videos that have Olive in them are privated to where only people, that are my mutual followers can see. And, my Instagram's locked down, and my Facebook, I only, Facebook, I honestly just think I might get rid of because I've had Facebook for so long. I have 1 trillion friends, and there's no possible way that I want all of them to know about my kid. But
that's fair.
I think I'm super self-conscious about that. And really what made me think about this is there's a TikTok account, and I mean, there's a couple of them, but there's a TikTok account where the mom has like a 4-year-old girl, and it's an ultra viral TikTok account. Like they have like 15 mil, like most of their videos get like 15 million views.
Oh.
Like so many views. And a lot of people are calling this mom out because the videos that she's making, they're coming across as something that someone maybe doesn't have good intentions could use for a different purpose.
I see.
And
okay.
So basically they're calling this mom out and they're saying, look at your saves. The videos that this kind of stuff is going on, your saves go way up. And a lot of people are talking about, like this mom's like, no, you guys are crazy. Like you guys are the sick ones for saying this, whatever. And she just refuses. And so she's got a 4-year-old little girl who millions and millions and millions of people have access to. And a lot of people are really frustrated because they feel like it's almost in a way like taking advantage of your children when they don't have that self-autonomy to say, no, I don't want to be on the internet. No, I don't want to be in this video. And so it's something I thought about because I was watching a video last night of someone kind of breaking down this situation. And a lot of people are calling for laws against like family bloggers and mommy bloggers and all of this. And I think for me personally, it would never be worth it for anything, including my daughter, to be used in a way other than I intended it.
That's good.
And that's, I mean, the best way I can say it, I think.
Yeah.
But it really, I think a lot about it because I think a lot of people, and maybe it is just being naive and, kind of being blind to the fact that there are a lot of bad people out there. But I think for me personally, like, it's not worth, the money that you're making off of that account or whatever for your kid to potentially be in a dangerous situation or to get older and be like, why did you do that to me for years? Like, why did you put me all over the internet for everyone to see? So I don't know. I think people should be thinking more about like the fact that your children are people and they're going to have their own feelings about what you did with their image in this day of technology. So.
And I know some of you might already be on the comment section of this podcast or the video and be like, Anthony, you especially, you're such a hypocrite because you have a podcast that's on social media about parenting and so you can't talk crap about social media, blah, 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 blah. And I would just say like, well, if you look at the show, there's a reason why like I don't put my kids on the show or in this content. Because number one, this is for single parents, not really for... But like number two, I just decided early on, like I just for these reasons didn't want to do that. So yes, I am like I do. So like yes, I do love social media. Obviously, like I love being a part of social media, creating content for social media. So for me, I want to say hopefully I'm not like being a hypocrite, but I know for my kids, going back to. Was it when we were talking about authenticity? Was it this? Oh, yeah, it was this segment. We were talking about authenticity. Like, I would want them to grow and to develop, like you were saying, themselves to where they're old enough to say, hey, like, I do want to be a content creator or I do want to put my own self out there. Then they have the ability to do that versus going back and seeing that their dad made that decision for them when they might be comfortable. So, like, I just say, well, I'm just not going to do it. And we have like made posts and videos and stuff like that before, but I just for a lot of, especially as they're getting older, I was like, you know what, no, I'm just going to like use kind of same approach, like keep the stuff I share about them like through like my own private channels that my friends and family can see who I know, but this stuff like putting out content for the world, I'll just keep it myself and I'll talk about my kids like whatever, but like I'm not gonna like put their pictures up or
and I think there's
whatever.
A big difference, and social media is like a great tool, especially for, people who maybe don't live near their family or have long distance friends or, anything like that. I love the ability to share like first day of school pictures or maybe Christmas morning or whatever, but that is with an understanding of who I'm sharing to and, where it's going because I would never, and this was something I actually had to learn with TikTok, especially because I'm not like a TikToker. Like I make a random video here and there just for funsies, but I didn't initially have all of my videos of Olive privated.
Okay.
And I remember specifically was after we went to Disneyland. And we went to Disney World, for her birthday a couple years ago. And I took a really cute video of her. She was so excited. She was seeing Mickey Mouse for the first time. And it was when that like, that trend was going around about like core memories being formed. Do you remember? And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to do this trend with Olive because it's so cute. And I remember the video ended up getting like, not a lot of saves, but like people were saving the video. And I was like,
interesting.
I don't really like that. Like, so I went that day and put every single video that had her in it on private because I was like, I can't imagine it's a cute video, but I don't know who these people are that are saving a video of my kid to their phones. So I was like, no. So I, that day, locked down every single video of her. And if you follow me, I have to follow you back in order for you to be able to see those videos. So I think like people make mistakes and people do things innocently. Like I did it myself, but I think it's just being really conscious of what you're putting out there and who's going to be seeing it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, everybody out there, use your social media accounts to share this discussion of social media. That would be great because again, we can use it for good things. It is awesome. It is legit. Yeah. But maybe instead of using it to exploit your kids, use it to share this podcast.
Something to be encouraged by.
All right. And then lastly, to kind of, I guess, to end the show, I wanted to specifically, actually, I think this was your point when we were talking about stuff for this episode, but basically we wanted to, I guess, give some encouragement to the people who are maybe in this very moment just figuring it out when it comes to the single parent life. And I think that can come from different situations. Maybe your partner or the kids' mom or the kids' dad literally just left or asked for a divorce, or maybe they just passed away unexpectedly or something like that. And you just woke up recently and you're like, my life just changed forever. I wasn't planning to be a single parent, but here I am. And actually, not even just that, but I have a friend who was a single mom, but she was co-parenting. And then something unfortunate happened to the kids' dad, her co-parenting partner. So he's no longer with us anymore. So now she's like not even just a single mom, but she's not even a co-parenting single parent. She's like a full-time now 24/7, 365 parent. And so what does it look like, and what encouragement can we bring to those of you who are maybe at the very beginning of that or in the middle of that or what have you, and you're just like, I get what you guys are saying, like being a single parent, that's hot and all that stuff and it's fun, but I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
This all just went down. So like right off the bat, what would you say to the moms and dads out there who find themselves in that situation?
I would say, number one, like, don't be too hard on yourself, because we're literally all constantly just trying to figure it out. Like,
yeah,
every single day, like, something will happen that I'm like, especially as your kids get older, it's like, oh my God, I don't know how to deal with this. Like, and there's really no rule book on parenting, right? Like, you truly, and I think any parent probably in all time would agree that you're just figuring it out as you go.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is when I became a single mom, leading up to that, for Olive's entire life, I had been a stay-at-home mom. So for me, it was really, really figuring it out as I go, as like being a young single mom, re-entering the workforce and figuring out childcare and figuring out, being financially independent again, because being a single mom or a stay-at-home mom, I didn't have to worry about, like, the bills were paid and I didn't have to worry about any of that. And so I think that if you're in that situation, it is really scary. And it is like re-entering, after, I think it had been almost 4 years, because I quit working when I was pregnant with Olive. So it had been almost 4 years that I hadn't even had a job, other than I like coached cheer and like, I did fun stuff. But re-entering like this area where you're like, okay, like I'm really on my own now, is really scary, and it can be really hard, and it can honestly be really defeating. Like I remember so many times that it was just like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Like, how I'm like, I really genuinely would be like, how do people do this? Like, how do people go to work all day and be a parent and make dinner and pay the bills? And like, it's so crazy that like the one thing that I think we as humans and parents are so good at is just adapting and making things work.
Right.
And so I think really just like have grace for yourself, because even if it feels like right now, maybe you're like right in the middle of it where you're like, how do people do this? I'm never going to be able to figure this out. I'm never going to be able to, work and do all these things and find my life fulfilling. I think just understand that at some point you're going to adapt, and that's going to be your new normal, and it's going to feel okay again.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, adapting. And I mean, we have like a little saying in our house, but I think I really picked up the saying when I first became a single dad, and that was just, taking one day at a time. Because I know like this for you, if you are like finding yourself in this situation, this might seem like a cliche, but like for me, the best encouragement I could give you is that eventually it will get better. Like, again, I don't want to say like get better as in you won't stop being a single parent, because I can't promise that, or it's just going to magically be rainbows and cupcakes all day. But to Steph's point, it will get better to the point where you will adapt, you will move forward, you will adjust, and you will recognize things about yourself that you didn't even know was inside of you. But I understand being at the beginning of that, or like maybe right in the middle of that, is super, super scary because you don't have anything really to look back on except maybe some craziness or some trauma, or trying to figure out like, how did I even get into this situation? Because I remember looking back at my time when I first became a single dad, a lot of stuff went down like right at the same time. So honestly, when I think back to it, a lot of it is like a blur. And I honestly, maybe it's just like stuff I need to work out in like therapy or something, but I just don't really remember a whole lot. Maybe because I just like suppressed a lot of it because I just had to get into survival mode. But basically when it all happened, I had like stepped out of like my career. We were going through the divorce, and I got like a bad infection in my arm. So I was like hospitalized for like a week, like back to back to back. So when I got out of the hospital, here I was now with no real job, no partner at home, fresh out of the hospital. And my girls at that time were like, what, maybe 2 or 3, maybe younger than that.
Yeah.
So basically having babies. And here you go. And my family, they live like 4 hours away.
Yeah, that's really hard.
So I remember, because of that circumstance, I legit remember digging through my couch for dimes. Because I was like, if I can just like find enough dimes in my couch, I can walk to the store and get the girls milk.
Yeah.
Like I remember that, and how I made it through. What I think ultimately what I just had to do is just take it day at a time, because I was in such survival mode to the point that I was digging through my couch for dimes just to get through. And then once I came up with enough dimes and got milk, then the next day I had to figure out something else.
Yeah.
And the next day I had to where now, like 5 years or so later, I am able to look back, and maybe I don't really exactly remember how I got through each one of those days, but I remember that I did, and I overcome, and I endured it to where now, like you made a good point, this is the norm, and I really can't picture going back to anything else, because we have like such a set, like we got this, like me and my girls, like we got this, we're thriving, we're doing well, we don't have to dig through the couch for milk money anymore, we're good. But if I would go back and tell myself, who was at the beginning of that, he probably looked probably so sad and defeated and scared, and it's like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it. But I would just tell him, like, you're gonna figure it out, dude. Like, you got this. Just, it is scary, but just take it one day at a time. Just figure out, and then, as we always say on the show, just do the best that you can. And if the best that you can in that day is like, I can't figure anything else out because I have my kids, but I just need to figure out how to go to the store and get them milk. And if the best thing you can is to do in that day is figuring out how to go get them milk, and that's your success for the day, then take that W and go to bed with it, and then wake up and you figure out one more thing. I don't know. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah.
And I would say, don't try to feel like you need to get out of your situation. And what I mean by that is, I think that we kind of talked about this on the show already, but like the fact that a lot of people's solution to even the single parent life in general is like, well, you just need to figure out a way not to be a single parent anymore, not to be the only adult in your house anymore, or figure out how all these things. And so what I see will happen is people, instead of doing the work to care for themselves and just to move forward and to adjust to that new normal, they'll constantly sometimes attach themselves to unhealthy people because they think like, okay, well, I can't do this alone. So at least this person, not the best person, probably not the best person for my kids to be around, not the best person for me to be around, but they said they'll help me pay my bills and they'll give us a roof over our heads. And so like,
definitely an easy thing to fall into.
It can get, I don't know, that can get unhealthy and kind of scary and stuff like that. And then I don't know. So I know that, like you said, that could be an easy solution, but I think if you're able to, the best long-term solution is just to take it day by day. You may not, again, even for me, you may not even know how you were able to get through the day looking back and like, how did I, but you being a parent, you know that you're going to do what you got to do for your kids. And so you're going to find this strength in you that you don't even know that was there, that you probably don't know that's even there. But it's there because you want the best for your kids. And so you're going to dig into that strength and you're going to press forward and then just give it some time. Maybe it'll be a year. Maybe it'll be 5 years. Maybe heck, it could be 10 years. Who knows how long? For me, it was about 5 or 6 years. You're going to get to a point where you're going to look back and you're like, yeah, okay, I was able to do it. And we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd say.
Keep working it.
Keep working. And don't think that you're alone. I would say that also is that a big motivation for I'll speak for myself, like me doing the show is to put stuff out there so that way you can hear some of these things, even as we're goofing around and talking about silly stuff, like hopefully in a way that you're not alone and you have a couple of people who understand where you're at, who've been where you're at, who hopefully you can in a way look at us and be like, okay, well, if Anthony was able to figure it out, then I'm sure hopefully you'll be able to figure it out too. So just stick around the show. We got you. We love you. We'll support you. Let us know how we can support you any way possible. This is why we're doing this. So
yes.
With that, though, that's going to bring it to the end of another episode of the Single Parents Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in yet again. Anything else you want to say before we close?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, with that, you all out there, you just keep doing the best you can. And don't forget to stay beautiful.
Bye.
Bye.